So it's interesting. I just run across a random site here, typed in 666, and so a lot of this stuff I knew already. Somebody had the wherewithal to put this all together into a website. Um, but here's a few facts you probably didn't know about 666 from the website. I should probably mention it. There's 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, 360 degrees in a circle, and 60 degrees in each angle of an equilateral triangle, etc. 360 divided by 10 equals 36. More on this number soon. 6 by 6 equals 36. It is from this that the mysterious number 666, being the number of the bees, came from, which was directly linked with the worship practices of ancient Babylon from around the time of Daniel. All right. Interestingly enough, well, it quotes Daniel 3:1 here, and it talks about the image of gold that he made. Remember the dream he had in chapter 2? We talked about that in the first episode of this. And it's interesting that he made this image 60 cubits high by 60 or by 6 wide, 6 cubits wide. And when a third dimension is not given, it usually means that that dimension is same as the second dimension. In other words, so it's 60 by 6 by 6. So the Babylonians were very aware of this, and um, they intentionally did these things. The Babylonians worshipped gods that were associated with the sun, moon, planets, and stars involved with astrology. Babylonians were also the principal developers of astrology as we know it today. And it is because of this that the pagan priests wore amulets called Sigia Solis, or sun seal, which symbolized 36 constellations. All right. They dug up quite a few of these little clay tablets in Rome as well, and they would have a series of numbers on them, and no matter which way you added the numbers, it would always come out to 666. In this system of worship, they had 36 supreme gods, which included the sun god, which they believed to be the father of all other gods, and so was supreme over all. The Babylonians believed that numbers had power over their gods. They worshipped as they assigned numbers to their gods so that they could have power over them. They did this by counting their gods and assigning a consecutive number to each of the 36 lesser supreme gods, and then added up these numbers from 1 to 36 and assigned a sum to the sun god. The sun god was the assigned number 1, as it was the father of all gods, and thus was also the male deity. The moon god was assigned number 2, and of course was the female deity. The gods numbered from 3 through 36 were considered the children of the sun and the moon god, which included the various stars in the constellation that these gods were associated with. I'm sure that you have already guessed by now that the sum of the numbers 1 to 36, which we have not figured that out, but that's very fascinating, totals 666, which they assigned to the god associated with the sun as being the father of all their gods. The calculation is simply this: 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, all the way to 36, all right? Consecutively adds up to 666. Scholar and secret society expert Merle Vance commented on the following in his book, Trail of the Serpent. In the astrological religion of Babylon, every god had its sacred number or numbers, which were often used in place of the god's name. These numbers indicated the god's place and power among the astrological gods. Going deeply back into Babylonian astrology, we find the real reason for the sanctity for the number 36. The Babylonians divided each of the 12 houses in the zodiac into 3 rooms, making 36 in all. They then divided the entire remainder of the sky into 36 constellations and appointed the ruling god of each constellation to rule over one of the 36 rooms of the zodiac. Since the spirits of the departed were believed to go to and dwell in the stars, a teaching still much alive today, there was therefore not a spirit in the heavens, not a star in the sky, which was not represented in the 36 rooms of the zodiac. And to swear by the number 36 was to swear by every god in the heavens above, as well as by all the spirits of the departed. The 36 gods were called deacons because each ruled over 10 degrees of the zodiacal circle and over 10 days of the 360 day year. The 7 planets, or the 7-headed astrological dragon, has 7 heads. Boy, that's interesting. Where did we hear that? We heard that in Revelations 13, didn't we? The seven-headed astrological dragon ruled over the 36 deacons, and over them all, as we have noted, ruled the sun, the father of the gods. It was natural and inevitable that since the summary number of the numbers from 1 to 36 is 666, the number called the grand number of the sun should have been assigned to the sun god as the cosmic god, who not only ruled over all other gods but also was their heavenly parent. Herein lies the reason for the solar seals in use before the time of Christ as amulets to ward off any evil that might come from the 36 deacons. Because of the Babylonians saw their gods as being predominantly evil, they feared that one of them may strike them down sometime. This is why they made these amulets with 6 times 6 matrix with the numbers 1 through 36 on them, which are called numeric matrices, magic squares today. Some positive qualities were credited to some of their gods, and particularly in the sun god, but overall their gods were seen as being evil rather than good. And on this, it shows a coin with the numbers in this little square box. You know, it's actually a little bit more sophisticated than the little clay amulets that I've seen that they've dug up from ancient Rome. This was a practice for many, many years. The design of the amulets was to protect them from a god striking them down using his magic power, so the amulets had to be powerful as possible. In order to increase its power, they arranged these numbers in such a way that the sum of any given row, column, or diagonal, remember I was telling you that, was 1, 1, 1. Oh, I didn't say that. And therefore, the sum of all 6 rows or all 6 columns was 666. All right, well, I knew I was close. This was supposed to provide extra protection, including from the sun god, since the god's sun was present on the amulet. The one above has the god of the sun standing on the lion. This indicated the sun's position in the constellation of Leo during the hot days of August. The back is inscribed Nachael, meaning intelligence of the sun, and the numbers 1 through 36. The second illustration is also a solar seal, but it honors the star Basilico, which was the diminutive form of the Greek Basilius, and thus meaning the same as the Latin Regulus. Regulus is the only first magnitude star in the constellation of Leo. The sun and the moon are again clearly seen on the amulet, and the reverse side is the same arrangement of numerals with the actual figure 666 given as the total. This statement from Merle Vance further explains the need for a person to carry the amulets with them. All right, and it goes on and on. And gives an example of these tables. I might put these pictures up here for you guys to see them. And Nikolai Tesla's biography, I used to have it on a CD, and I found it interesting that he was fascinated with these numbers 3, 6, and 9, and it was the basis for a lot of the formulas that he used in his electric motors and so on and so forth. And I can kind of relate to that. I've built a few axial flux wind generators. It was a Hugh Peugeot, I think how you pronounce it. He might be French. Hugh Peugeot's design. Anyways, you know, you use these variants of 3, 6, and 9 to come up with the proper geometry between your magnets and your coils and so on and so forth. Anyways, so this to me seems like, you know, some of this stuff there's some science behind the number 666, and it is my contention that Satan has hijacked God's wisdom, if you will, and tried to make it seem like his own in this clever little number game that he plays. But you know, there's 360 degrees in a circle. If you strike that off in quadrants of 60, you know, that's the exact number of spokes in the solar wheel. And I mean, there's a few things that they probably mention all this in this very article here. I mean, they're getting into dates and everything else. Let's see if it says something here. Though the early church leaders showed themselves strongly opposed to Gnosticism, many scholars point out that it was later embraced by the church. Montfaucion, a Catholic scholar quoted by Vance, tells us that demon worship was carried on in the early church by those claiming to be bishops of Jesus Christ. And the Gnostics, as we have already seen, combined the worship of the serpent with the worship of Christ. They combined elements from the Babylonian, Persian, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, Hebrew, Christian religion in the universal universal or Catholic religion. All right. of the Catholic system, which embraced all others. It is but natural that they should take over all the summary number, which includes in its mystic embrace the whole circuit of the heavens and all its gods, the number 666, the secret and most sacred number we believe in all paganism. That's a quote from Vance, page 113. Here's just one example of pagan religious beliefs being incorporated into the very heart of papacy. Look at the picture of the artist painting of the papal throne. I might put that up there too. Look at the picture of the artist painting of the papal throne for the Vatican Museum, and note the zodiac symbols above the throne. Why are these symbols present above the Pope's throne? During medieval times, zodiac symbols were carved in the papal throne. The reason the Bible speaks so negatively about 666 is that it symbolizes the power of the person who has this number to have power over all of the gods, which in the case of the papacy is their claim to be God and have authority over God and his law, which are false claims. Because the popes claim both to be God and to have authority over God, they believe that they can change the law of God to suit their own purposes. This is, remember, we read how this power, this little horn power, would seek to change times and laws, or perhaps a law pertaining to time, okay? This is extremely serious to God, and he knows it will also lead many to be lost for all eternity. So the above evidence links 666 with the actual sun-worshipping pagan Babylon and the papacy of the Catholic Church, which is dominated by pagan practices and solar images, and referred to as Babylon in the book of Revelation. This is just a small part of the evidence that makes this relationship apparent. Quick word about the word Babylon. It's a composite word, Bab-El. Two words. Bab is door, El is God. And so, the Babylonians were big into believing that they had another door to God. And the city Babylon was nothing more than was the city of the door to God, basically, is how you would translate that. And so all these pagan gods were displayed in their temples and worshipped as such. And these practices really were refined and became very sophisticated during this era of the Babylonians. And that's why the Bible uses this same terminology to describe a future power, if you will, by calling it Babylon. And incidentally, the word Babel or Babel is exactly what babies do. It's a word that's been, I don't know, how would you say that, transliterated into the meaning in which we know it today, Babel, confusion, which is actually very perfect because the door to God, this is an alternate door to God. It's not the door to God, it's a door to God, leads to confusion. All right. All right. One should now understand the relevance of why God calls the Catholic Church Babylon. I think it's going to call. I don't agree with everything this article is saying. Okay, because, there was a call. Now, yeah, I believe the leadership in the Catholic Church is definitely Babylon. Okay, but so are a lot of Protestant faiths. It's because they're in a state of confusion and they've been believing this craziness. And they've been essentially worshiping on a day that God has not sanctified. All right. And this is all included in this article as well, most of which I agree with. But it matters little whether or not I agree with it. What really matters is whether it's provable. And I believe it is. A lot of this stuff is easy to find in history. And in fact, the Catholic Church is proud of much of this. Like I pointed out earlier, in my last video, The Faith of Our Fathers, Cardinal Gibbons makes no bones about it whatsoever, what their mark of authority is. In many of the Catholic encyclicals, many of their, actually, the older version of the Catechism used to have a question and answer format in which they actually were asked the question, which day is the Sabbath, and they, of course, said Saturday. And then the question was asked, and why do we observe Sunday? And they very proudly and very boastfully claimed that they had the power to change that day. And this is what gives them the authority, because the whole world, notice the language, the whole world kept Sunday sacred. In the Bible it says the whole world wandered after the beast. All right. So the name Vicarious Filii Dei, in the spirit of keeping this video as short as possible, let's at least talk about this for a second. But Vicarious Filii Dei, which means the vicar of the Christ, or substitute for Christ, being synonymous with Antichrist, i.e. assuming the power of God on earth, does count or add up to 666 in Roman numerals and Latin, etc. Yeah, that's right. So Vicarious Filii Dei in Roman, Latin, and I believe Hebrew as well, the numbers all add to 666. This was no accident, friends. This was a deliberate, this was very deliberate on the part of them that take this name because they believe that they are God. Something this article very, very correctly pointed out. And and in the same way, the Bible says to count the number of the beast, which also comes to 666. See an excerpt from an article on the known titles of the Pope called Number of a Man, or the select for a full original. Okay, well, so anyways, yeah, the Pope's got lots of different names. They made sure to carefully choose these names that every single one of them would add up to 666, okay? This is not my fanciful notion. And hey, if this was the only identifying factor that we could, call them the beast, power, it wouldn't be enough. But they fit every other category in the prophetic language of the Bible. Anyways, we're going to talk some more about, I know we were supposed to open up chapter 17 of Revelation. Didn't get to it. I felt like this was an interesting article I ran across. Wanted to kind of include that and give you some background on it. But, I appreciate you for watching. Stick around for the next one. I'll get that out just as soon as I can. It's actually quite a bit of work to get these videos made, and I'm new at it, and I'm not that good at it. And I really appreciate you guys subscribing and the support already that I've had just so early on in this channel. I didn't really expect anybody to be viewing this stuff for quite a while. I have some other YouTube channels, and it just took them so long to get off the ground. But already, as of this date, I have 3 subscribers, and that's just so awesome. God is already blessing, and as long as I stay faithful to Him and to His Word and to His purpose, I feel like He's going to continue to bless His channel. Please pray for me to stay true to the Word, to the truth. If you disagree with anything I'm saying, please very kindly put it in the comments. Keep it kind. That's all I ask.